You know what sucks? Waiting. People, we don't like doing that. We don't like to wait for things. But sometimes things are worth waiting for. This is one of those times. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello everybody, welcome to Thumb Together. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we are talking about Incredibles 2 together. As always, if you enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. The wait is over. It's finally here. Pixar has cranked out movie after movie. I think that they have put out, I don't want to say a movie a year, because I feel like there's been a couple years where there hasn't been one, but close. It has been close to a movie a year from this outstanding studio. Now, there are movies that are so bigger than life, are so universally beloved, that the second they come out, I'm talking like the day they come out, people are already whispering about a sequel. I remember when the first Jurassic Park came out, all anybody was talking about, like the next morning, was, so guys, what do you think Jurassic Park 2 is going to be about? What kind of new dinosaurs do you think we're going to see? What about this? What about that? When do you think it's going to come out? And the exact same thing happened with The Incredibles. The second that movie hit public eyes, and I'm talking the second, people were ravenous for more. They loved it, and they wanted more. Now, it's very rare for a movie to be so universally beloved, but in the case of Incredibles, it falls into that very elite category. I don't know anybody, I've never talked to a single human being who was like, yeah, I like this movie, I like that movie. The Incredibles, nah, I hated it, I thought it was garbage. I've never met anybody who said that. The Incredibles was just, it lived up to its title. It was an incredible movie. And we have had to wait, and we sat through a Finding Nemo sequel, 2 Cars sequels, a Monsters, Inc. prequel, Brave, and now finally we have that sequel that we have been talking about since the day Part 1 came out. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, Incredibles 2 is absolutely 150 bazillion% worth the damn wait. You know, keeping in the realm of Pixar here for a moment, I have always felt that Toy Story 2 is a perfect case study of how to do a sequel right. In my opinion, a sequel should be so good that when you marathon the whole thing in the future, Part 1 should be something that you have to sit through just so you can get to the sequel. That's how I feel. Sequels should constantly be improving upon what came before. And the Toy Story sequels did that. Now, whenever I watch the Toy Story movies, when I'm on the first one, I'm like, man, I'm having a lot of fun, but I can't wait for what comes next because I know it's even better than this. Toy Story 2 was a miracle. I mean, back then, Disney sequels were garbage. They were absolutely horrendous pieces of junk. Cinderella 2, Return of Jafar. Hey, how you doing? The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. What's up? So the idea of a Disney sequel coming out that not only is good, but even better than the original was unheard of. That's the kind of sequel Incredibles 2 is for me. It does everything that something like Toy Story 2 would have done. It ups the ante. It has a lot more moving pieces, so there's a lot more happening and a lot more at stake. It does a role reversal with our 2 main characters. So now we have Elastigirl, who is out fighting crime full-time while Bob has to stay home and look after the kids. Everything that a great sequel should do, it does. And I walked out of there feeling like I just saw a movie that I liked even more than the first Incredibles. They even gave me a poster at the end of the night. This cool little poster with everybody's silhouette on it. As you can see, there's the whole family silhouetted around here. There's Frozone as well. He got in there. And this is a spoiler, is what this is. So I'm not going to talk about that yet. But that's a great little poster that the movie theater gave me. So thank you. So what's this movie all about? Well, if you saw the trailer, yeah, you caught the gist of it. Superheroes are still illegal, but it picks up right after the last one left off. And when the Incredibles were fighting the Underminer, there's a man by the name of Winston Dever, who is a millionaire, philanthropist kind of guy. And he sees this fight happen, so he decides he wants to sponsor the superheroes to come back into the limelight to fight crime, but he puts little cameras on them so that the public can actually see the good they're doing. And he wants this to kickstart, making superheroes legal again. And Mr. Incredible is like, yeah, I'm back in the game. And this guy's like, well, not yet. Actually, we think we'll be better off if we go with Elastigirl because she causes way less collateral damage than you do. So that's why Elastigirl becomes the main focus of this movie. She spends the majority of the movie away from her family fighting crime, just like in the first one, how it was Mr. Incredible who was doing that. And let me just say, Elastigirl in the first film was awesome, but in part 2, she friggin' rocked it. There's a great monorail chase scene. The way that they conceived that chase, the way it's constructed, the logistics of it, where she's on a motorcycle and she's chasing this runaway train and she's stretching at the same time, was just friggin' wild. And it's a testament to the animators at Pixar and to the director Brad Bird for maneuvering this character through this city using nothing but a motorcycle and stretchy physics. And it is top-notch, baby. Speaking of Brad Bird, I need to give a shout-out to him. This man, he wrote and directed both of the Incredibles movies. And the reason this one took such a long time was because he wanted it to be perfect. And he said he threw out, I think, 2.5 other full movies that he threw out because he's like, it's not quite what I want. And then he landed on this, and he's like, yeah, this is it. He's smart enough to know that there's a big difference between a kid's movie and a movie for all ages. Kids' movies are usually bad. I'm talking, Barney's Hide and Seek Adventure, the 71-minute direct-to-VHS smorgasbord of off-key singing. Movies for all ages are movies like Toy Story and The Incredibles. Brad Bird made these movies to be enjoyed by everyone, kids and adults alike. But when you watch them, I don't know how long it's been since you last saw Incredibles 1, but watch that movie again and look at how adult it is. Look at how grown-up the script is and how grown-up the situations are. And Incredibles 2, I think, even takes that a little bit further. The two new characters who are sponsoring the superheroes, these two millionaires, are played by Bob Odenkirk and Catherine Keener. And there are moments in this movie where Elastigirl just sits down. She's not fighting crime, she's just having a drink. She's just sitting down relaxing. And she's sitting down and she's talking with Catherine Keener's character. The conversation that they have is so mature. It's so adult. And when I say adult, I'm not talking like they're talking about racy things like, hey, you know what's great? Heroin. That's not what I'm talking about. That's what a lot of comic book writers' idea of adult is. That is not what I'm talking about. When I say adult, I mean they're having a conversation grown-ups would have with big words and big implications, and they're talking about heady subject matter, philosophizing about life and their place in life. And it's so not like anything you would ever hear, any conversation you would ever hear in a kid's movie. Even a lot of really good all ages movies don't have conversations like this. Like, these two characters are sitting there talking about their views on a particular topic that I don't want to spoil. But they're so grown up in the way they're speaking. Nothing is sugar-coated. Nothing is, made to sound like, fun, bouncy, because this movie's for kids. And I'm sitting there and I'm just enjoying this very heady conversation between these two adult characters in this animated movie. And I'm like, I can't imagine a conversation like this happening in, like, Fern Gully. Like, it just won't happen. I'm so grateful to Brad Bird for not playing to the lowest common denominator, for making a movie for everybody about everybody. The movie is about adults and kids. All, the Incredibles are all different ages. Speaking of kids, Jack is back, yes, and he does have every power you can think of, plus some more. The powers that you saw at the end of Incredibles 1, that's not all he can do. The kid can do more. He is a freak of nature. A lot of Jack stuff is spoilery, though, so I'm not going to talk about that. What I was afraid of going into this was that the wait would have been too long for the movie to matter anymore. And what I mean by that is sometimes real life can get in the way of a sequel. There were 14 years between Incredibles 1 and Incredibles 2. 14 years. That is a long-ass time spent away from these characters. I mean, it's almost like we took the family, we cryogenically froze them, and then we thawed them out now in 2018. And, they come out, they're all bleary-eyed, and the mist settles, and they're like, okay, we're back. So, what did we miss? And we're like, well, this guy's president now. This symbol means taxi cab and apps. The world is so different. Can this movie still exist the way the first one did? And the answer is yes, it finds a way to do that. It finds a way to still be an Incredibles movie without sacrificing its own integrity to suit the new world. Because I feel like if they had tried to do that, people would have complained. Since we've gotten the first Incredibles, in that 14-year span, Pixar has given us films like WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, Coco, movies that people walk out of sobbing. The first Incredibles was a fantastic movie, but there was nothing in it, that emotionally, punched you in the face like that. There's nothing in Incredibles 1 that made you, have to grab a tissue and clean up your mascara. That never happened. And I was a little bit afraid that people would complain if Incredibles 2 didn't do that, because that's almost like the new standard for Pixar now, is we got to have some tear-jerky moments. But Brad Bird stuck to his guns. Brad Bird made an Incredibles movie. He didn't make a Pixar movie. He just made another Incredibles movie. It's the same kind of thing. It's a story about the Incredibles, and it's sweet, and it's fun, and it's big and loud and exciting and action-packed, but it doesn't have one of those tear-jerky moments. If you get emotional and shed a tear because something really cool happened or something sweet happened, that's you. But the movie is not going to grab your heart and wrench it out of your chest like Inside Out did. So I love that Brad Bird stuck to his guns and he kept the movie as an Incredibles movie rather than a Pixar movie. I think that's very important. Remember, when Incredibles 1 came out, Pixar had a perfect, spotless record. Every movie it made was like a 10 out of 10. Now, not so much. Now they've had some complaints. Pixar is not a squeaky clean name anymore, but Incredibles still is. And I think Brad Bird knew that, and he said, I'm not setting out to make a Pixar movie, I'm making an Incredibles 2. And I think that's the key to how this movie turned out to be such a big ball of wonderful joy. So let's go into spoilers. There's a few big spoilers here to talk about. First and foremost is Jack Jack and his powers. As I mentioned before, he has a lot more powers than we've ever seen. He has almost too many. And we get a great scene where he puts them all to good use. Jack Jack is watching TV, and there's a guy on the TV who's a bank robber, and he's got a black domino mask on, and he's really mean, and Jack Jack is watching the show, and he's all riveted. And then he looks out the window, and he sees a raccoon outside. And the raccoon's mask reminds him of this robber, and Jack Jack freaks out, and he's like, I gotta get that raccoon, he's a bad guy. That's why this raccoon made the poster, because Jack Jack goes out into the backyard, and what follows is, I want to say, like a 4.5 minute long fight scene between this baby with every superpower in the book versus a raccoon. It doesn't sound fun. When I'm saying that, it sounds like something Ice Age would do. It does not sound riveting, but when you see it happen, it is hilarious, and it just keeps going and going, and you think like, oh my god, okay, how is this going to end? And then it keeps topping itself. In the last movie, we saw him use his powers when Syndrome picked him up, but the family didn't. So the family still does not know that he has powers, and throughout this movie, one by one, they all start to discover it. And when Bob discovers, Bob is the first one to find out, and because he's taking care of the kids and he's watching Jack Jack, Bob is absolutely driven insane by the amount of things this kid can do. So he takes him to Edna and is like, Edna, help me, design me a costume so that this kid can, so I can get some sleep. Edna is back, and she's even funnier than she was before, and she makes a costume for Jack Jack like we saw in the trailer. I love that the baby having powers, it wasn't just like a little thing that happened at the end of the first movie and that's it. Like, it still carried on. The family still does not know he has powers. Elastigirl doesn't find out he has powers until like the last 10 minutes of this movie. I love how they paced that. Who's the villain? We only got slight touches of the villain in the trailer, and it was a dude in some kind of gas mask named Screenslaver. Well, that's exactly right. Screenslaver is the villain, and he uses hypnotism over television screens, so anybody watching will be hypnotized and they'll do whatever he wants. So they really play with the elusiveness of Screenslaver. It's not like Syndrome, where he was sort of front and center when he showed up. Like, he was teased too, we took a while to reveal him. But with Screenslaver, it was even more mysterious. He was a complete enigma the whole time. And then, of course, we get the big spoiler of who Screenslaver actually is. It's not the most jaw-dropping, it's not the biggest twist in the world. You can probably see it coming. We are in the spoiler section, so I'm going to reveal it. Screenslaver is, in fact, a construct that was made by Catherine Keener's character, Evelyn Dever, because her parents were killed by muggers and no superhero was able to save them. So she doesn't want superheroes back. She thinks having superheroes around makes normal humanity weak and over-reliant. So she was going to foil her brother's plan to make superheroes legal again by creating a villain who could hypnotize people, and then she would make the superheroes do evil things under hypnosis. So, yes, this is the second movie in as many years where Catherine Keener plays a surprise villain who messes shit up by hypnotizing innocent people. I see what you did there, Brad Bird. But it was a cool reveal. Just like Syndrome in the first movie, they didn't skimp out on the darkness. Screenslaver is a dark villain, just like Syndrome was. Her reasoning for being a villain are very grown-up reasons. Again, this is a grown-up story. And when she hypnotizes Elastigirl and then soon after Mr. Incredible, it's genuinely frightening because I'm like, oh my god, the two adults in the family are hypnotized. Now the kids have to, help them out and save the day, and the odds are overwhelming. There's also a lot of other superheroes in here, which I'm really happy about. In the first movie, they explored this world where superheroes were everywhere, but we only caught fleeting glimpses of it and little fleeting mentions and like, oh, Gazer Beam. Remember Gazer Beam? This one introduces new heroes into the mix, and they're not just there for set dressing. They're there throughout the whole movie. As soon as you meet them, they become mainstay characters, and they have a lot of cool powers, especially this character Void. Her powers are really cool. If you've ever played Portal, you're going to like what she does. So they expanded the universe. Again, sign of a great sequel. So, side by side, these two movies are perfectly consistent with one another. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go right here on record and say that I thought Incredibles 2 topped the first one. This is a Pixar movie and a Pixar sequel operating at the top of its form. Everything you've wanted to see for the past 14 years, you're going to see it in here, plus more. The world's going to get bigger. The characters are going to get more interesting. You're going to walk away loving this family even more than you did the first time. If you are a diehard, huge fan of the first one, if you have the logo tattooed on your chest somewhere, there's a lot of callbacks to the first one, especially in the opening of the film. And there's a lot of little consequences from that first movie that trickled down into this one and are still playing out, particularly with Violet's date with the boy from school. And I don't even want to spoil that because it's great and there's a lot of fun to be had in there. But I will say that for me, the funniest moment of this movie involved Violet and this boy. But that's all I'm going to tell you. So yes, I thought Incredibles 2 was even better than The Incredibles. I can't wait to add this to my Pixar collection. This is going up on the wall. This is absolutely fantastic. You owe it to yourself to see this movie. It was worth the wait in every sense of the word. So that's Incredibles 2. That has been Thumbed Together. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for getting incredible with me today. I'll see you next time. And until then, adios.